You twist it. And it gets stuck because you're filming.
How much?
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is up, everybody? My name is Dane Thompson, and you're watching Burndown. So, if you are still with me on this episode of Burndown, you know that we are on Struggle Straight with the PowerGlide. So I'm still at it, still after it, and we're still learning. But I learned a lot about these things. I feel a lot more confident about ripping the next one apart if we ever get that far. But first, we got to get through this one. So let's kind of recap what we did. We'll get you up to speed if you missed any of the other videos and you just want to start here, and we'll just move on forward. Let me show you real quick what we got going. So these are all of my parts. This is my Go Juice. It's going to help me get through this. The case, and then these are the leftover parts essentially. This is the valve body, but this is the old one. We will get onto that in a little bit. So we've got a 176 planetary. I've got my pump that you guys watch me essentially modify and put back together. We got new seals on it. This thing is all ready to rock and roll. We have the case that has been modified. Since you guys saw it last, we actually welded fittings on because I drilled and tapped. I don't know where my drill and tap is, but I drilled and tapped. I had fittings and I was pressure testing and it was leaking because I did not tap it correctly the first time. I started with a straight tap, thought I could chase it with an end which is tapered, and you cannot do that, or I didn't have the luck. So I ended up welding this because I don't want any leaks, I don't want any surprises, and you can't weld it after the fact. So I welded these on. If you do it correctly from the beginning and you get yourself an NPT tap, you drill it 3/8, you chase that with a 1/4 inch 18 NPT tap, which is tapered, and then your fittings should seat correctly. Mine did not, and I had to get that done because you can't move forward until everything is good to go. So that is a quick side note, maybe a quick lesson for you guys. When you do this, you need to double check. All right, so that is a look at the components and where we are actually at. So what we're gonna do today is I'm gonna blow this thing out, make sure this is real nice and clean, and then start reassembly. We will start by putting the rear piston in. Here is all of our pieces and parts separated. These are the old frictions. So there's 4 here. And then as you can see, we've got 5 on this pack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this pack. I don't know if I have enough steels because there's this friction, so we'll stack it and see. But we'll put it together. I will soak these. And then I've got a bag here, so we'll throw them in there, throw some transmission fluid in, and let these guys sit while we figure the rest of this out. Mercon 5. Alright, if you're wondering why I used a baggie, it's so I just could use less fluid, because transmission fluid isn't terribly cheap. So this way, it'll soak it and get around it without having to have like a real thick container. Because you can just take the air out of here and it pretty much soaks it for the most part. Let me put some more fluid in there, we'll leave it there, and we'll continue. Alright, so I've actually been playing with this for a little while now. And I have brand new steels. They were actually under the band in here in this package. So there was the clutches here, steels, which I didn't pull out in the last clip. But yeah, so there was brand new steels. So we soaked our clutch material. I pulled them out. And then what we're gonna do now is we're gonna load this, and I'll show you guys how to check it real quick, just for reference, and then I will cut to putting the piston in. So in this case, we don't need the wavy disc anymore. So this one doesn't get put back in. And then in this book, it's calling between 90 to 120 is max. Anything over 120 is too loose. So what I ended up having to do is I used all the combination of clutches and steels to pack it with just the 5, right? So I did all that, and this is where you measure it. And I measured it with feeler gauges, and it ended up being too loose. But it was so loose that I'm actually gonna run this, which is an additional 68 thousandths, which puts me like just under the 90, which is a little tight. but I'm okay with that because if I leave this out, it's too loose and it wouldn't work. So we'll be a little bit tight, and then hopefully things will be okay, but we'll be damn near close. Feel pretty good about that. And that's just doing it with a feeler gauge, so I don't know how accurate I really am because I just put the feeler gauges together and measured it with my Pittsburgh digital caliper. So as you can see, this is not a precision deal, but there was a bunch of slop without the extra steel in there. So I'll show you what we're gonna do real quick. We're gonna pack this thing and we'll just do a mock-up, and then I'll show you where the measurement is, and then we'll go from there. So at least you can do it on your own, but it is 90 to 120 thousandths, and then anything over you have to either add, you know, a steel or add a clutch and a steel, and then shave down the piston like we did on the high clutch drum. So same thing with this, you would just shave the face of it, but I don't want to get all carried away again and do all that. And then since I have all my old steels, I can just run a combination of those with the new stuff, and then we're good to go. And you're okay to use old steels as long as they're flat. And then these are scuffed up. These, again, it looks like this thing was rebuilt and not really run, but we pack it by alternating. And then there's one more trick on this one. So your piston is in, and I don't have any seals or anything on it, so that way it's bottomed out. So you put your piston in, make sure your piston's bottomed out. You want to start with the steel. So we will go with the steel, and then you'll notice that there's this little notch. This notch goes at 7 o'clock on the inside, like so, because they only fit in one way. You do it any other way, it's not going to go in. So I lined all these up so we didn't sit there and fumble around with them, but it goes down at 7 o'clock. So it's, you always do a steel, and then you do a clutch. Steel, clutch, steel, clutch. So steel, and then you're going to go clutch, then you're going to go steel. And remember, we're not, this isn't the final, this is loading it so we can check it. Before, if this was the final, we would have everything put together and we'd be giving it the sauce. So let me continue to do all of that, and then I'll show you how we kind of get a rough measurement. Okay, so we've got all of our clutches and steels packed in, and you can end with a clutch or a steel because you can run against the top of this, which is the retaining ring, I guess you'd call it. And this one's got a little notch right here on the bottom, and that signifies the 7 o'clock position. And then you throw your snap ring in, just like kind of on this drum, but the case itself is obviously the drum. And then if you look in here, you can, there's a gap, you can make a gap, and then obviously you put your retaining ring down so it doesn't pick it up, but you can see, I mean, it moves quite a bit. There's a pretty decent gap. So this is where you take your measurement from. So again, I've done all of my measurements. I used feeler gauges. I basically clumped them all together and then got a measurement of what the end of this was, put it all together, and then I used my feeler gauge till I was able to drag it in between a clutch and a steel. And then remember to put your retaining ring in, so that way it's not pushing this up and you're getting a false reading. So you guys got that? That's how I did it. And again, you know, there's precision ways of doing things, and then there's this way, and I think this is gonna get by just fine. If not, you guys are gonna know, because when I hit the trans brake button, if things don't work, then I guess it didn't work. But again, this is what I'm gonna do. We added an extra steel from the old pile of steels. We got rid of the wavy one, and that is how I'm gonna pack it and load it. So let me take everything back out. We'll show you how to put the piston portion in for the last time. We'll put the seals on it, and then we'll actually pack this thing, load it, put the retaining ring on, and then we can check it with air, and it should actuate. And that'll be pretty exciting. We will have the reverse piston in. So to reassemble this, you'll need new O-rings. Here's the old seal rings, or they call them lathe cut seals, I believe. And here are the new ones. So one goes on the inside, one goes on the outside. We have to lube these up really good. You're supposed to use assembly lube, or they said petroleum jelly. All right, so this guy has a real smooth edge and then a not so smooth edge. So we're gonna stick the not smooth edge toward the inside, because that needs to seal up. It needs to be a nice seal. So I'm glad I found that. So check your seals when you get them. Make sure it's nice and smooth and doesn't flip over. So this one, like I said, has a grainy edge. I don't know if that's to keep it in place or what. Okay, so on that seal, it actually has a little yellow dot right here that indicates that needs to go out. And I learned that because I put it on and it was kind of gritty. And I'm like, seals aren't supposed to be gritty, so throw the sauce in here. All right, so I've been messing with this thing for a while, and I think I have this seated all the way. So I'm gonna go ahead and put all the springs in, put this guy on, and then I can put the tool on to compress it and see if everything works, and this clip will go on and everybody's happy. So let me load the springs in here, I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll go from there. Hopefully I didn't lose any of these like I lost the little one, because these ones you need all of them because you need this to release fast, and they even sell ones that are higher tension to get it to release even quicker. That's what we look like with our springs in. Make sure they're all standing up. Then you put this over the top and capture all of them. Alright, so you put it in, you twist it, it locks in the lugs, and then you should be able to twist this and compress springs down around the piston. And our little snap ring buddy should go in there, so let me do that and then I'll show you guys. Alright, the snap ring is in, then we should be able to let this go. And it should retain all those little springs. Hold that piston in place. And you twist it. And it gets stuck because you're filming. And yeah, so bam. So our piston is in there, in place, everything is loaded. Now we can pack this thing, and our reverse clutch pack will be done. So let's pack that and we'll be money. All right, reverse piston is in. We are gonna alternate. Here's our steels. Let's get our clutches. Things kind of coming apart, but I think we'll be all right. That way these are nice and soaked. And then we'll just put them in and alternate, give it the sauce, put a retaining ring on, and reverse is done. So you wanna start with the steel, little notch groove at 7. I'm just going to go ahead and throw some of this down on that first one. Clutch. These things are nice and lubed up, coming straight out of the bucket. So, and then the big boss. Last thing to put in is our retaining ring. So we will put this guy in. So that is that. The retaining ring is in. I can show you guys how to check it real quick. So if you take your air hose, you put it in this hole here, and you actuate it. You also have to cover this hole because we drilled for the trans brake. But on a standard one, this would actuate it one-handed, so I gotta do 2 hands. But let me see if I can get it to where you guys can see this actually move. Oh, you can see here. So I think you should be able to see in the drum, you can see that thing move a little bit. Let me see. See it? All right, so that is it. I hope you saw it kind of move. It's hard to see that, I know it's dark, but that is it for today on this episode. So that is how you do the reverse clutch pack. So now that we have that, we can start assembly on the rest of the transmission. But that thing kind of kicked my butt initially putting the piston in because it has to go in flush and square. And I chewed up a lot of time doing a bunch of other stuff today. So we're gonna get back to it on the next episode. If you like this, remember, click subscribe, share, click the little bell, tell your friends, go buy some merch. I'm out.